Welcome to the Pharos Fit podcast, where we help you to explore your capacity to move better, push further, and achieve your limitless potential through fitness, nutrition, recovery, and lifestyle. Hey guys, welcome back to the Pharos Fit podcast. Thanks for tuning in. I am here today with Abel Ortiz. Hey Abel.
Hi guys.
And Clara Warbritton. Hey Clara.
Hello.
Clara, do you prefer Clara or Clara?
Clara.
Clara.
Hard
Clara.
A.
Huh?
Hard A in there.
Hard A.
Yep.
All right. Okay, guys, we just finished the Limitless Challenge 2022, and it was actually probably the most successful Limitless Challenge we've ever done. Just to give you guys some context, this is a 5-week challenge. Now, we set it up as really as a lifestyle challenge, but as part of that lifestyle challenge, we do measurements, and we do some fat loss and some muscle gain kind of stuff. And in this 5-week challenge this year, as a total group, we managed to gain 95.7 pounds of muscle, and we lost 329.6 pounds of fat. A huge amount of muscle gained, a huge amount of fat lost. So it was pretty incredible to see. An amazing achievement by everybody. And I'm here today with the winners of that competition. Clara and Abel were managed to be very successful in this challenge. They won the most points in the challenge, but also Abel managed to lose 11 pounds of fat in 5 weeks, but also gained 5 pounds of muscle. And Clara managed to lose, this is incredible when I say it, 15.7 pounds of fat and gained 1.6 pounds of muscle. So huge numbers, and both of them dispelled that myth you can't gain muscle and lose fat at the same time. It's always the question that everyone asks. And it can be done. We've proved it. We've proved it multiple times, and I have living proof in front of me that the myth is real. So I want to really get in today to their story, like how it happened, what they did, what made the difference, and all that good stuff that is going to allow you, the listener, to really understand and comprehend how these things can be achieved in such a short time frame. So, Clara, let's start with you. And I really want to go back, first of all, to a little bit of background about yourself. Before you even came to Pharos, like, what's your kind of fitness background, nutritional background, and that kind of stuff? You don't have to give me your life story, but just kind of a brief biography of how you got to this point in time.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Especially like when I was younger, I was not super athletic, like wasn't really my thing. I did like, especially team sports, never my thing. My coordination's terrible. Like I was always like active though, like some hiking and like snowboarding and rock climbing when I was younger. Started to get a little more active like when I was in undergrad. My bachelor's degree is in exercise science. So it's like I was, kind of started to get into exercise then, like a little more in the gym. Got more into running, a little bit of lifting when I was in PT school, doing a little bit of that. And kind of then after I was finished with PT school, started doing some lifting kind of on my own. I did a lot of running, just kind of really probably running was the biggest thing. And I did some lifting on my own in the gym. Not a whole lot. And that's basically what I was doing until I started coming here because I live right down the street and I had a coworker that was coming here and came to a class and I was like, I hate group classes. Right. I do not like group classes. Like I can do this on my own. Like it's totally fine what I'm doing. And I came here and I was like, oh, I really like this. And so it really changed like kind of my whole exercise plan. Everything I do really changed around a lot of what I was doing. So,
and did you just get more done in the time you were in the gym than you do on your own when you started coming to class?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The biggest thing was it's like I could do stuff on my own and it's like, oh, I'm pretty good. Again, I'm a physical therapist, so I'm like pretty good with form. I can do all that stuff, but I don't like push myself necessarily. Right. I'm kind of like, okay, I can do this. I'll do all the stuff, but I don't really push myself. Right. And it's not quite the same as having somebody else there to like push you and go, oh, okay, I can do a lot more. Yeah. And it's like I'm like actually like making some progress.
Yeah, and I've seen that time and time again, and I've experienced it myself. Like, of course, I can work out on my own and I can do stuff on my own, but that's really unprofessional of me. I left my phone on. Big black mark underneath my name. Even on my own, like I get maybe 20 to 30% more work done when I'm in class, just because there is less distraction in terms of like phone or chatting to people, and you have your peers around you kind of pushing you, and you're trying to like obviously keep up with the class because the class is running on a time frame and the coach is coaching you through that time frame, and it just ends up being a more efficient, and not just more efficient, but you do push yourself more because in the company of other people, you tend to step up a little bit and push yourself just that extra bit more. So So that was even before the challenge. Obviously, you were kind of finding that experience, and then you were coming to the gym fairly regularly before the challenge, or
a little bit. That's the biggest thing. I'm like kind of like consistently inconsistent. I'll get like kind of get like an all or none. Like I'll be doing a lot and then I get a little burned out, and it's like I'm kind of coming here and there. And it's like I was consistently coming to the gym every week. I wasn't like not coming for weeks at a time, but it's like some weeks I would come like 1 or 2 days a week.
Oh, okay.
And then I'd come like 4 to 5 days a week, and then I'd be like and then back down. So it's like I wasn't. It's like I was improving like kind of through the cycles, but it's like I missed like a couple classes. So it's like my lifts didn't change a whole lot because I wasn't super consistent.
Okay.
So it's like it was kind of up and down a little bit.
Okay. Okay. Well, we'll pause there because then we'll go into the challenge and what the difference was there. But let's come to you, Abel. Let me know a little bit about you before Pharos.
Before Pharos, I mean, I did play baseball when I was like a teen. I hated it. My dad just wanted me to be like his baseball prodigy. He wanted me to go to the Dodgers and all that, and I just wanted to listen to Britney Spears and teach my sisters how to. I was very good with choreography, so I actually like taught them some choreography and made them do talent shows, and I was kind of living through that feminine side of me.
Right.
And then after like I think I got injured pretty badly, and I stopped baseball. My dad finally allowed me to like not go, and then I just lived my life up until maybe like 26. I started CrossFit. I got sober. CrossFit kind of saved my life. I was in a really, really dark place, and yeah, then 7 years of CrossFit, and I just kind of got burned out on that, just CrossFit every day, and yeah. And then
that was before Pharos. Yeah. It's a really interesting thing with the sobriety thing and CrossFit. Like I've seen it, I've heard that story many times, and also the burnout thing many times, because you essentially replace one addiction for another. And with the CrossFit thing, because it is so addictive, and it is like you are like having such a good time, you do like almost you end up doing too much of it, and just like every day just stripping energy from the body until you get to the point where you're just like burn out and you kind of crash. And I've seen that many times, but super happy that it was the start of your fitness journey, and it enabled you to get sober and really start a really successful fitness journey. So that's awesome to hear. And then Clara, we'll go back to you, and then I want to go to the start of the challenge, and then Abel will circle back to you. When the challenge starts, and obviously, the challenge is a little bit different for everybody, but what was your general experience of this challenge? If you were to kind of like summarize it in general, what was the general, your overall experience like? Like
doing the challenge? Really, it was good. It was nice to have that commitment, because again, it's like I can be a little inconsistent, because it's like I can take a break here and there, but just to have something that is like, oh no, this is a challenge, it's a competition, to really be like, this is a commitment. And especially like when I started, I told Arthur, like, I will just do what you tell me to do.
Right.
And especially with kind of the point system, it was basically like just a checklist to me of like, do this stuff. So it was a lot easier to be consistent and just go, let me just check all these boxes and do what I'm supposed to do.
And did you take it as a competition from the start? Are you a competitive person? Were you like, I want to win this? Or were you in the beginning just like, I just want to try and...
I wasn't super competitive at the very start. I was like, oh, that'd be cool to win. But like, people are really competitive here. If you've ever seen me like in a class and there's like a finisher that involves running and like everyone's out the gym, I'm always the last person out the door. Like, I'm not trying to beat everyone back in. Like, it's not me. But it was like, so I started, but I'm like, oh, well, I just want to like do the best I can. So I'm like, I'll get all the points that I can. And I was kind of expecting like that to be a ton of people. I'm like, oh, I was expecting people to be super competitive. I'm like, I probably won't be up there. And then I was like up at the top at the first week, and I was like, oh, that was a surprise. And I'm like, well, I was up there. I don't want to drop down.
Right.
Like, I want to stay there. And so it's like, so I just kind of kept like, it's like, okay, let me still like make sure I'm getting the points as much as I can. And like just following that. And then especially it's like kind of as everything else, like as I was like doing the weigh-in and like the body scans and everything every week, it's like, oh, this is going well.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just following these steps, and it's like really translating well to what's happening. So then I got a little competitive as like I was getting good results, like body composition wise, and then also like staying high in the points. So then I got a little more competitive, because I was like, oh, I want to keep that spot.
Yeah.
So like that kind of made me want
well,
to
it's kind of like you end up kind of inspiring yourself in a way. It's when you start getting results and you start seeing the results on paper, and that's why the scan is so good, the embody scan, because it does give you tangible, realistic results. You're like, oh my god, this is really happening for me, and it, you know, motivates you to keep going.
For sure.
Yeah,
that's great.
And so the competitor within you started to come out as you went.
Oh yeah.
And did that continue throughout the whole thing? Were there any points where you were like, oh?
No, as it got closer to the end, I was like getting like more worried. I was like, because every time, like at first I was like, I did the first scan and I was like, yeah, whatever, we'll just see what happens. And then it got to the last one, so I was like, that better like turn out well.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I better have lost weight. I better have gained muscle this week.
Right,
I was like, I can't be dropping down. I was like, I gotta win now. And so I got like more competitive as I kept going, because especially Arthur's like, you know, as it gets, you know, gets later, some people might get kind of tired and they might start to drop down. I was like, no, I'm not doing that. I was like, no, I'm going to keep going. So that I got like more competitive towards the end. It's like, awesome. Oh no, I want to like hold on to this. So it worked out well.
Abel, how about you? How was your kind of like overall?
It was great. I mean, I'm definitely competitive. I don't really know where that comes from. I'm just competitive, but I mean, for sure I wanted to win. I think it really, but I also wanted to just challenge myself and do something I've never done. And the same as Clara, I saw myself up there in the first week and I just wanted to keep continuing. I got a little discouraged when, you know, I went down a little bit, but I just kept fighting through. And yeah, I wanted to win from the start.
Awesome. And also here today, guys, is Coach Arthur, their kind of coach who coached them through this experience. Hey, Arthur, how you doing?
Yeah, how's it going, guys?
Yeah. Arthur, what was your kind of like with these two in particular? Obviously, ended up being your winners. Did you know from the start that they were going to be the competitors, like the challengers, your challengers, or did you see it come out in them as it went on?
You know, from the start, they were both super motivated and willing. And I think that's one of the biggest contributors to their success, is that they were okay with whatever suggestion I was giving. And it's true that after the first week, seeing that first leaderboard and seeing themselves kind of up there, they're like, wait, hold on. There's a chance I might win this. And I think this is when it became real, really, that first leaderboard. But I think that like they have everything that is required to win. And I think that most people who do the challenge think that they have it. But when it comes down to this, when it comes down to actually like making the time to recover, it's not just about working out. It's all the extras that makes really the difference. And those two were willing to go the distance. They were willing to get up in the middle of the night. If they didn't do their foam rolling or their mobility, they were willing to take some time off work to go walk around the lake or feed another class or whatever it was. Really, that willingness, that desire to shine is what made it possible.
Well, let's take a step back then, and let's talk about the major contributors towards your success. What were the main kind of factors that you found, you know, made the difference? Either of you can go.
I think the biggest thing was like partially just the consistency, and like I said, it was really just like kind of checking all those boxes. Like, okay, am I like tracking everything? Am I kind of sticking to the macros that Arthur had laid out? Like, am I following that? Am I like working out? Am I recovering?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, we
like,
should say, guys, so before these guys start the challenge, Arthur did all the macros for you, did all your calories for you. So you knew before you started, you know, the plan was laid out for you in terms of like how many grams of protein, how many grams of carbs, how many grams of fat you're eating every day. Your workout schedule was all planned out before you started.
Yes.
And everything was kind of like, okay, this is the plan and let's stick to it. And by the sounds of it, you guys stuck to the plan.
Yep.
Yeah.
So for you, the consistency, the nutrition, me and Arthur kind of talked about this before and how much of a difference the nutrition makes. Was the nutrition that he laid out, was it hard to follow? Did you find it a struggle? Was it easy? Was it?
It wasn't particularly hard. Like, kind of he said it, and it's like, because he'd given it to me like a few days before the challenge started, and so I was like, okay, let me start tracking before I change anything, and I like tracked everything, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm way above what he's, right. I'm like, this is way different than what he has. I was like, so we'll see how this goes. And at first it was a little tricky, but it's like, it wasn't like insane. It wasn't like, oh, this is, I have to majorly deprive myself. I like can't have all of this stuff. It wasn't anything like that. And it wasn't even like I was talking to some other people at work, like, because we like have food and stuff at work, and I'd be like, oh, I can't have it. I'm like doing this tracking. They're like, oh, you're on a diet. I'm like, well, it's not really a diet. It's like, this just doesn't like fit in my macros for today. Like, if I wanted to have that, I could make it fit in. It's just kind of not worth it. So it wasn't like super restrictive or anything. It was just like, it was kind of like a game to me. Like I could play around with like, okay, well, I had this in the morning and I know I'm going to have this later. So how do I fit all these macros in here? So it's kind of like a game to play. And it wasn't like, oh my God, I can't eat anything. Like I'm starving all the time.
Right.
Like I realized I actually felt way better.
Yeah.
And I was less hungry most of the time. And I was like, oh, I actually feel way better eating this way. Like it was a little tricky at first just to switch things around. But it like actually like I felt significantly better.
Yeah, I think it is a good way to look at it, and it can be fun. I think that's why the apps can be good, like whether you use MyFitnessPal or whatever food tracker you're using, and you always do play it like a game. Like these are my numbers I have to hit. How shall I hit them? Oh, I can do this here, and you kind of like Tetris it until you get to the exact number. Did you find the protein target hard to meet? Because that's something that I often find is hard for people to meet, is the protein target.
It was so hard, especially at first. Like I think like the first week at one point I was like still like I kind of hit everything else, but I was like still really low on protein. Right. I like needed a bunch more, and I literally just was like sitting. It was like 9 o'clock at night, and I like made some chicken. I'm just like sitting there eating like 2 like pieces of chicken. I was like, oh my God, this is terrible. My dog's like staring at me. I was like, I would share with you, but I have to eat this. I was just like, oh my God, this is the worst. But it's like that was the first week, and then after that I like got much better at like, okay, I've balanced it out, I've spread this out, like it's like it's not the end of the day. I'm like, oh my God, I just had to eat this chicken breast now. Like, it's much better. It's
kind of an interesting thing that as a society, like we would have grown up in history eating way more protein and way less carbohydrates, but as time has gone on, it's carbs that are always readily available because they're always there. There's always a carbohydrate that you can grab, whether it's bread or chips or whatever it is. There's always carbs, but protein it takes more preparation, it takes more planning, especially if you're trying to like cook fresh and all that kind of stuff. Abel, how about you? What were the major contributors towards your success on this challenge?
My willingness, I guess. Just willing to just do what it takes, do what Arthur said. Just for the first time I went to Costco and I just bought, like, normally I would buy food, like, I'm only going to eat this, like, buy like $30 worth of food for the week. And I was definitely under eating, which is why I was like always tired, never recovering. Right. So I was definitely under eating and overeating the bad stuff. Right. Tortilla chips, like, where it was like, I could skip a meal and just have a bag of tortilla chips. So yeah, just my willingness and going to Costco and buying like, $150 worth of food, not knowing whether I was going to be able to finish it all, but just trying it out because I've never done that before and doing that. And actually, the first week was definitely hard. I was just forcing food down. I was just kind of like, oh my God, this is a lot of food. Can't do this. But then after, following my workout schedule and eating that, I felt better. I felt like more energized. I didn't feel as sore. I was like ready for each workout. And it kind of motivated me to just keep going. And like pretty much.
Isn't it interesting that when you do spend more money on good food, you end up being more productive, feeling more energized, and it doesn't feel like you're wasting money. There's a big difference between spending money and wasting money. And it's really funny to me, like, we often waste money on such shit, and yet when it comes to like buying quality foods, we're like, well, that's a little bit expensive. And it's like, well, but you just spent $50 on garbage. But once we start those good habits of like, I'm gonna spend money on good food because I know it's gonna energize me. I know it's gonna be productive, and if I'm more productive, chances are I'm gonna be more successful in everything else that I do, potentially make more money or whatever. But yeah, it's a false economy to try and like, I'm just gonna buy shit so that I can save money and that way I'll be richer. It's like,
it's definitely changed my perspective on that. It's like now I don't even want to go out to eat because I'm like, well, I could buy this much like better food. And
well, that's the other thing. We just said $150 a month. How often are you shopping? A week?
Like like maybe 10 days or so.
Okay, so 10 days. So $150 for 10 days of food. You go out for one meal with a friend, it's probably going to cost you $150. So yeah, it's a false economy often with food. We have to like spend money on good things to give us the nutrients. And I love what you said about it not being about denial and about restriction. It's about, I need to put good things, good food into my diet. I need to hit the numbers, and in order to hit the numbers, I need good nutrients to get there. So it becomes less about restriction and more about adding. What can I add to my day to make it, fuller?
Yeah.
And make me feel fuller. And when you start eating good food, it is filling. Like you were saying, like it actually, like, even though you were eating less calories than you were before, you were probably a lot fuller because you're like, oh my God, I got to eat more protein, because protein is a lot more filling, a lot more satiating. It's a lot harder for our bodies to digest. So, you can eat like 500 grams of carbs, no problem, because they're so moreish. You can just like gnaw on donuts all day long. But when it comes to like digesting good quality protein, it's actually hard. The body has to work hard to do it. So it's a really interesting kind of lesson to learn. Nutritionally, for you, Abel, did you find the protein target hard to meet? What were the struggles of meeting the nutritional targets that Arthur laid out?
I mean, protein, yeah, kind of hard, because I really only eat chicken. I don't eat a lot of. I don't like fish.
Right.
And red meat, I've always just had this kind of like feeling towards it. I don't really eat a lot of it.
Is that where does that feeling come from? Is it?
I have no idea, honestly.
It grosses you out, or it's like
kind
an
of,
ethical,
yeah,
like
it kind of like
ethical
grosses me out sometimes. Like, it grosses me out to cook it, especially in an apartment, because the smell really stays with red meat.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
No, it does.
Yeah. So I just don't enjoy cooking it. I will eat it if I go to like a taco truck or whatever, but cooking it and buying it, I don't know. I just have a weird feeling about it. But It's getting better. I bought some I forgot what kind of meat it was, but some good quality.
Yeah, meat. I mean, I've known people that either through media or through speaking to people who have who are anti-red meat or whatever, they've kind of like steered away from it for such a long time, and then when they start reintroducing it, they really notice the difference in energy, just because of the nutrient density of red meat. So it can be something that we're not like you were saying, you're not really sure why you didn't like it or steered away from it, and chances are it's probably a number of factors. Like, people have probably said things to you, you've probably like heard stuff or read stuff, and it kind of like steered you in a certain direction. Yeah, and it can put you off. But for most people, I think once they start introducing, and I'm not saying you have to eat it all the time, but once you start reintroducing a bit into your diet a little bit, you usually get great energy from it, and it becomes a lot easier to hit those protein targets once you've got some red meat in there.
Yeah,
especially if you're trying to gain muscle.
Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, yeah, it's gotten easier to hit the protein now that I've introduced other stuff. I'm going to explore with salmon too, so.
Were you guys supplementing with protein, like protein powders at all, or were you just like sticking with real?
I was doing collagen in the morning with my coffee, and protein powder maybe at the most two scoops. Yeah, I was trying not to rely on it so much, because I know that, it's not the best, but yeah, I was.
Yeah, I was just using the collagen, which I had already been taking before. I kind of switched. I used the marine collagen before, and then I kind of switched to like the bovine collagen because it's a little higher in protein. But that was the only one. Usually I have some protein powder. Like if I had yogurt, I just mix the protein powder in because it like makes it taste good anyway. And that was about it. Otherwise, it's like I did have some of like the protein like shakes, like the Premier Protein. Like I would do that, like instead of like normally like when I drink coffee, it's a shot of espresso and like a ton of milk and like sugar.
Right.
And so instead of like doing that, I would just put a shot of espresso and like a Premier Protein shake or something, and like protein bars here and there. So.
And how are you guys like dividing up your meals throughout the day? Were you sticking to more of a like 3 meals a day kind of plan, or was it more kind of like small meals consistently, or how are you doing it?
For me, it's kind of just a day by day. Yeah, just kind of day by day. Always, mostly like. I would say probably 4 meals a day.
Yeah. And was the plan basically like as long as you hit your numbers by the end of the day, it doesn't really matter when you do it? Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. Were you the same, Clara?
Mine was mostly like 3 meals a day because especially during the week I'm at work. So it's like I just kind of stick to like my work schedule with that.
Right.
And eat that way. And it's like then like sometimes it's like, if it was like late in the day or something and it's like I still have to like hit something, I'd have like a snack or something. Usually like after the gym especially, or like right before the gym is usually when I'd add something in.
Yeah, I think people often get very carried away with like you have to do it this way, you have to do it that way. It has to be intermittent fasting, it has to be 6 meals a day, it has to be this. But usually we find like as long as you have the plan and as long as you have the numbers and as long as the numbers add up at the end of the day and at the end of the week, like everything kind of falls into place, and we don't need to get too carried away with this is right, this is wrong, because all these things work at the end of the day as long as the overall numbers are where they need to be.
And although I took it day by day, like I still had the food ready. Like I know I would have a plan,
right?
But not really. You know, like I would try not to put too much pressure.
You had a flexible plan.
Yeah. So I would still make my food the night before, like, okay, I'm gonna eat all of this. But if I felt something, if I don't know, if my mood changed and I didn't want that, then I would.
Yeah, were you guys like really strict with your meals, or were you kind of flexible, right?
I was pretty flexible, and even like my macros, like I think there was like one time that I was like right on my macros, but like most of the time I was like over or under on like some stuff. I just made sure I always like got at least all the protein.
Yes.
And then like some stuff was like off a little bit, and it wasn't like I was not super strict. I was pretty flexible. It's like, oh, okay, kind of this is what fits in here, or like whatever works. And then there was like some days that it would be the end of the day, and I'd be like, okay, I've hit everything, and then it's like, this only happened once or twice where it's like, oh my God, I'm starving. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm just going to eat some extra food then. Like, it's not a big deal. Like, I'm hungry. I'm just going to eat some extra food. And then it's like, oh, okay, feel fine. So
yeah,
it wasn't super
it's
strict.
about the same. I think I hit, it's like one day I hit everything on the mark, and then other days it was, but mostly protein always. My carbs were always kind of like either fluctuating a little bit.
Well, that's what we usually say, right? As long as you hit your protein goal, that's what's of primary concern. And then the carbs and the fats can go up and down a little bit, like volume controls. But like we said, like as long as like over the course of a week, everything kind of evens out and all kind of works by the end of the week. I mean, I think weekly numbers are more important than daily numbers at the end of the day, as long as we're hitting like those weekly numbers by, some days we go a little over, some days we go a little under, but it'll all even out in the long run. And I think that kind of flexible approach is a lot more successful long term. Like if you try and hold on to everything too tightly, like the wheels fall off pretty quickly because you're like, I can't possibly like keep up with this in the long term. I mean, some people can, but
Not me.
it's a very hard thing to do. Let's talk about exercise, because like you mentioned before, Chloe, you were kind of inconsistent with training, but you were in and out of the gym. And Abel, what changed with your exercise routine during the challenge to just your normal Pharos life?
I think being more intentional with it.
Yes.
I was kind of, I'd come in and some days I was like, I'm gonna do this workout, I'm gonna kill it. What was AK's time? AK is a friend of mine who comes here as well. He always kills it. Some days was intentional. Some days I was like, I'm over it. Fucking, I don't want to do this shit. But I would do it. I'm gonna move. I'm gonna just get this rep. So I guess more intent and just being really present, like being present in the moment in the workout, is what changed. Yeah. And writing my numbers down. Yes, it makes a big difference. Yeah, keeping track. Because you can't, what's that saying? You can't track what you're, what is it? You can't change what you don't track. You can't, there you go.
Yeah. Well, it's like you don't know where you're going if you don't know where you've been.
Yeah.
It's like you have to have those numbers. It's a super important point, because as Emily always says, showing up is 90%. But I'm like, well, maybe in the beginning, but after time, it's very easy to fall in the habit of just thinking showing up is enough. And like, as long as I show up and do the workout, it's like, it's enough. And at a certain point, it isn't enough. You have to really have intention. Because you can just throw
your body around and,
And we understand that the body only really changes when it's forced to, when we push it beyond its comfort limits. And the only way to do that is to sort of, like I said, your numbers, your times, that you're pushing yourself to beyond the comfort zone into a place where you don't really want to go. But you understand that if you really want to change, if you want the body to alter in any way, you have to go to that place. And I think after a while, people realize that. They come to the gym for a while and they're like just doing everything and it's fine. But then they get to a point where it's like, things aren't really changing anymore. It's like, this is why. It's intention. It's like going into the workout with that mindset of, it's go time, and you have an hour. You're asking your body to make all these big changes in an hour, so you better give it everything you got, because an hour out of 24 isn't that many.
Yeah.
So there gets a point where it's like, okay, this is my time to make a change, and I'm going to do everything I can to make it happen. So intention is super important,
and also intent outside of the gym, because I would also do that where I was like, okay, well, I worked out for my hour. Right. I'm gonna go home and sit down for 4 or 5 hours before bed. I'm gonna watch this show so I stopped doing that as well, and I just started keep it moving until maybe the last hour of bed. Whether it's like my floor's already clean, but I'll just clean that again. I'll just keep moving.
I think that's a really, really important point that we've talked about before, is you know, most people will be in a lot better condition if they just spend more time moving throughout the day. Like you said, it's very easy to go to the gym for an hour, and then maybe you have a sedentary job where you just sit all day, and then maybe you drive from the office back to the home and you just sit on the couch and you spend. So really, you moved for an hour in the gym and that was it. The rest of the time you were just sedentary, and it's really easy to fall into that habit, especially in America where everybody drives everywhere and, you know, you don't walk as much and all that kind of stuff. Whereas like, if you're just more consistent with movement, if you walk when you can walk, if you cycle when you can cycle, if you can hike when you can hike, all this stuff, it makes a big difference to your overall, you know, energy burn and your metabolism day in, day out, rather than just that spike and then that trough. Yeah. And then the next day, that spike and then that trough. It's like better to have that like more consistent, boop, 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 boop. Keep that body moving, keep that heart rate a little higher. Better for the joints as well. You'll notice that if you just go to the gym and then sit down and then just sit on the couch, you're a lot more sore. There's a lot less blood flow. Getting out of bed in the morning is a real struggle. Yeah. Whereas if you move a lot more. So before the challenge, how many days of the week were you come to the gym?
I would say at least 5.
At least 5, and then during the challenge?
During I was a bit maniacal about it. I think I only took Friday. I remember the date. It was the 25th. I only took that day off.
So you were coming basically 7 days a week?
Yes, sometimes 3 times. I listened to the podcast that Arthur and I heard how you grilled him, and you're like, "Oh, go home, dude." Like, and I was like, "Oh, that was kind of like me." I think like I at some point I feel like I know everybody here now because I was just here like all the fucking time.
Yeah, I think long term, you know, that can be a problem when it does become the same addiction that you had to CrossFit. It's like, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going. At some point, you will crash. You need to be aware of that. How were you when you were coming to the gym 2 or 3 times a day? How were you mixing up the workouts? You were coming to a build, and then were you doing like cardio and then something else, or how were you doing it?
Actually, I wasn't really doing cardio because I was instructed not to. Well, not heavy cardio. I started Ignite, and I really loved Ignite, and I loved Ruby's classes, Ignite and Repair, and Lindsay's as well. I did some yoga. I was doing build. I think one day I messed the week that I took that Friday off was I did a compete, and you know, I hadn't done CrossFit in a long time, and it was like 250 double unders, and I don't know what I was thinking, but that week took me out. I was switching it up. I mostly stuck to Ignite.
But I think that's a great combination. So you had the lifting session in the build. You were doing essentially hypertrophy and strength, and then you had the stretching and the recovery work. And that's great.
And I would spend like 40 minutes rolling out, and then another 20 stretching. And I also did ride. Ride was good, but I stopped my 3rd week because I was feeling it on my leg days. I was like, why are my knees like not? You know, so I paused that. I loved ride, but I just had to.
I think there are classes here that take out of the bank account, and classes here that put money back into the bank account. Yeah. I would put Ignite and Flow in the paying money back into the bank account thing. So although yes, it's another class, it's another form of fitness. I think it's restorative. I think it puts, you know, like it's a recovery practice, and it puts money back in the bank. So I don't think of that as a detraction. So it's not like coming to the gym and doing 3 CrossFit classes in a day. It's like, okay, I have one that takes money out, and I have 1 or 2 that put money back in. And I think that's a great way to do it. Yeah. Because yes, it does take energy. Yes, it is, you know, you are burning calories, but it's not the same thing. It's not that kind of like torturous extraction that you get from other classes. I think that's a really smart way to do it. Did you do anything like that, Clara? Or?
3 days a week? No, I was not.
You doing any restorative?
I was not here multiple days. I didn't do any of the classes. I was telling Arthur, I'm a physical therapist, but I'm like the worst physical therapy patient ever. I hate stretching. I hate foam rolling, like all the things I tell people to do every day. I'm like, that's great for you. And I'm like, I don't want to do it. So I was not doing those, but I would like foam roll and stretch and everything at home. But yeah, I wasn't doing a ton of that. But I was doing like classes and everything here, and like some Peloton workouts and everything too.
Oh, you were doing Peloton as well? So you did some. So you were more kind of like doing build and Peloton, build and cardio. Yeah,
I was usually doing build because I was either in a class every day, or like if it was for some reason, like some days like I'd be at work, like I would work like a Sunday, and then like I didn't have time to get to a class, so I'd do like something on the Peloton instead. So how
often were you doing that cardio? How many days a week would you do cardio?
Not actually too many. I didn't do too many because it was just like it was a little too much like to do a class every single day and cardio. So usually only like a couple days a week, like maybe 2 or 3 days a week. I'd either spin or run on the treadmill because I have both both at my house. I'm really into Peloton. So I do that stuff, but I was usually doing build and then started doing some training classes too.
Oh, cool.
Which was nice because that
In the
was
same
something.
day?
No, separately. I did those separately. Like I do like train on like Wednesdays and Saturdays.
Okay.
And like others and then do build
Cool.
the rest of the week. So yeah, it was like a nice switch up to do something different. And like especially like train on Saturday mornings was just like brutal. I'd just be like
Right, yeah. it's
struggling for,
yeah.
for like 30 minutes straight. I'm like, oh my God, this is so hard.
So
But, like, that
overall,
was
how
really
many
fun.
how many sessions were you doing in a week? Like
I was
9
doing,
or 10?
yeah, probably 10. Because I
Yeah.
did like, again, like I was just doing my checklist. It's like, oh, cool. I can get 3 extra points if I do 3 days. So I always made sure I did like at least 3 days a week. I had a second workout that I
Yeah.
do. And it was usually, like I said, I'd either do like a ride on the bike or I'd do a run. Like before or after a class here.
And Abel, how many sessions a week were you doing overall?
Oh,
So
God.
7,
So many.
7 for sure.
8, 9, 10.
Yeah, like 10,
Probably 10.
maybe more some days.
So guys, you heard it here. 10 sessions a week is the magic number. If you want to
the
win, 10 sessions a week is where it's at. But honestly, I think that's when I say 10 sessions, a lot of people are going to freak out and go, "Oh my God, that's so much training." But if you break it down into what you guys just said, so maybe you're doing five or 6 hard sessions, and the other sessions are either cardiovascular or the restorative, or it's putting money back in the bank. Then it isn't that crazy, and it's obviously very effective because you guys are living proof that it was.
Yeah, and actually about this, like it's important to talk about this, I think, because you can do 10 sessions a week only if you also up your recovery, right? The only reason why you guys were able to do like 10 sessions a week is because something that needs to be also said is that for this challenge in particular, we really, really weighted heavily on the recovery aspect of it. I believe that like a recovery session counted for 3 points, and that was 3 points that you could get daily. So as Abel was saying, he would do 40 minutes of foam rolling every day, plus 20 minutes of stretching. Clara would also like make sure to get those points. I mean, she told me that happened like at least once or twice a week where she'd say like, I'd be in bed and I'd be remembering, it's like, damn it, I didn't do my recovery. I got to get up and do that right now because other people are doing it.
Yeah.
So you can only, as Piet is saying, like if you keep on taking money out of this bank account, you're gonna go bankrupt. And something like foam rolling, something like eating well, getting enough water, or sleeping enough, managing your stress, all those things are what fill up your bank accounts again.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Like you can do it. You just have to be super attentive to the restorative stuff. And unfortunately, it's the thing that we want to do the least. It's the most boring stuff. It's like the foam rolling, the stretching, the stuff. It's like you have to find a way to do it, whether it's like, I'll do it whilst I watch something that I've been meaning to watch, or I'll do it while I listen to a podcast, or whatever it is. Like you have to find a way to get it in.
It gets easier though once
it
you
does.
Figure out, because going into the challenge, I even approached Emily. I was like, hey, sometimes my hips and my back like gives out on me and this and that. And I was like fearful that I, going my first week, I would get injured. But actually following that, just making sure that I recovered as much as I worked out throughout the whole challenge, I didn't really have any pain. So that was kind of something amazing that I learned, that I don't have a bad back. It's just I don't focus on recovery.
Right.
So
And Arthur, you were the same, right? You had problems with your back.
Absolutely. So I'm 8 months post back surgery, disc replacement surgery. I've got my L5S1 and L4 replaced. And I've only recently really started working out. I want to say 4-5 months ago, I picked up exercising again. And I did every single thing that I asked Clara and Abel or anyone on my team to do during those 5 weeks. I did the same. I logged in my food, I worked out every day, and I recovered every day. And I can tell you, it's been 2 weeks since the challenge is over. So it's been 2 weeks since I really foam roll, and I am feeling it. Right. It is not as great. I'm not feeling as great as I did during the challenge.
Yeah.
Because I'm probably working out just as much, but not recovering as
Right.
much.
It's the thing we always sacrifice first. It's like
Yeah,
the only thing that's good for us is the thing we sacrifice.
Yeah,
first.
like I don't need to do that. Yeah, that was the same thing for me. I like before the challenge, like I said, I'm like the worst at stretching. I'm like, yeah, this is super important, but I don't want to do it. And I'd been like, I'd started a few months before, like in like October, November, I'd started running again. And like, that was just a lot on my legs. And like, I was just in constant pain. Like my legs were hurting every single day. It's like, oh, my knees are killing me. Everything's hurting. It was kind of starting to get better after a couple months, like right when the challenge started. And then I started like doing recovery and like stretching and foam rolling every day. And I was like, within like a week or two, I felt so much better. I was like, oh my God, I could have done this sooner. Like I felt so much
funny,
better.
isn't it? Because we're so keen to like take painkillers or think that there's a supplement that's going to help us, or you know, look for all these answers. Like we know what the answer is. It's we've done it before. We know what it is. It's just that we don't do it.
Yep. Exactly.
Let's talk about other kind of hurdles and barriers that came up during the challenge. Things that may have in the past derailed you, or you know, moments that you thought, nah, I'm kind of done with this, or you know, you mentioned you know sometimes you would be laying in bed and you realize that, oh shit, I haven't done my foam rolling that made you get out of bed. What were the main sort of challenges and barriers that you had to overcome to successfully complete this challenge?
It didn't feel like actually way too much for me, because it wasn't like I didn't have anything crazy in the way. Sometimes it was just time. It's like, oh my God, I've like, because it was a couple times, it's like I'd been really busy with like work, and like I have a test coming up that I'm studying for. It's like, so I'd do all this other stuff and be late. And it's like, oh great, I'm so tired. And then I'd be like, oh no, I have to get up and do this. So sometimes it was time, but it was like, it really was, it's like, okay, if it's important, like I'm going to find the time. So it's just like, put it in here kind of as like a non-negotiable thing. Like I will find the time for this. Like I'm going to make time for it.
Well, that's a really important point, because people will use the time thing all the time. It's like, it just wasn't a priority to you. Mm-hmm. It wasn't that you didn't have the time. You just didn't make it a priority.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you'll speak to anybody and, did you go to the gym today? No, I didn't have time. Did you watch any Netflix? Yeah, I watched a 3-hour documentary on...
yeah, exactly. Like, wait a second.
You didn't have the time, you just didn't make it a priority. And that's such a true thing for all of us. We're all guilty of it. You know, whether it's stretching or foam rolling. I didn't have time to foam roll and stretch. It's like, really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There was no time to foam roll and stretch.
Zero time? Like I was on Instagram for like a while.
Yeah, exactly.
Didn't have time for that.
Yeah, all you need to do is look at your, you know, when your phone sends you that horrible, like, you were on the phone for 8 hours a day this week. It's like, oh, stop shouting at me.
Exactly, for
it's
sure.
such a horrible reality to be faced with. But yeah, I think often we have a lot more time than we think we have.
For me, it was just, you know, that voice in your head, the inner critic. Like, there were some days where it was, you know, I think towards the end of it, it definitely got way better. But in the beginning, it was just a lot of like, why are you doing this? You know, like, you're not going to get through this. Like, this is stupid. Like, what, you know? But I learned to just, through the journaling, which I love, I think the journaling was just, you know,
a big part of
like my favorite, because it really forced me to look at myself, like, you know, truthfully, and say like, okay, like, what patterns do I have that I never was able to, you know, do this? Because I would do that, like, where I would be like, okay, I'm going to have this routine, and then, you know, like 3 weeks into it, I would fall out. And then, so just looking at myself honestly and getting through that inner critic, and also naming her Shoshana, you know, fuck that bitch.
That's
and awesome. Yeah, it was a lot more of a mental game, like mental head game, that really changed for me. And really helped me through it. We
talk a lot about building healthy habits. Do you guys feel that you built some healthy habits during this challenge?
I definitely did, yeah.
What were they?
My mental, like the way I talk to myself, through a workout, through just everyday life. It's bled onto my life outside of the gym. So just the way I talk to myself.
It's like your inner voice.
Yeah, my inner voice. And it's helped me to be less critical of myself, less critical of the people around me, less critical all around. And that to me is just like above all. So, you know, like before I found out I won, I was just like, you know, if I don't, like, I still have a better body. I still look better naked, but overall, like, my mental head game is just so much better. And for that reason alone, like, I was just already happy that, you know. Yeah,
that's another really important point. And I noticed during lockdowns and the pandemic, you know, working out and coming to the gym became such an important thing mentally for people, because it was the one like outlet they had. And, you know, I've seen it over the years. It can be such a big healer, the gym, and exercise in general, for changing your headspace or putting you in a better place mentally. I think when it's taken away from us, I think it's such a fundamental part of human existence, and it's such an important part of who we are as creatures to be active and to do exercise and to play with other people and to have those interactions. When you take that away from someone, it can become really damaging. So I think, you know, during the challenge, it's intensified somewhat, but I think we're all lucky and we're all fortunate that we are here all the time, like working out and seeing other people and getting those benefits. And I think people that don't have that don't realize what a powerful gift it can be, just to move and just to be physical and just to be around other people who are physical and to get that kind of social interaction through the gym. I mean, it doesn't have to be through the gym, but I think the gym is a great tool to use for mental health.
Yeah, and because we're all working towards something together, so it's just the community itself. I that was another reason why I wanted to do it too, because just immerse myself in the community of all these hardworking people that we're all just working towards the same. We all want the same, and just same mentality. Not that makes not that it has to be that way, that we all have to think the same, but just the community of it.
Yeah, I think we had like 90 people on this challenge. And I think just the fact that you are going through it with 90 other people makes a big difference.
Yeah.
You have your coach as a guide. You have your peers as, people you can share the experience with and reach out to, or just even if it's just like a little fist bump here or like acknowledgement there, it's like, yeah, I'm going through it too. Yeah. I see you.
This is so important. There's such a big, as Abel said, he was here so often, and there's so many people who are doing this challenge that you actually do really make connections. Even the acknowledgements that you give on each other on Instagram, a part of the challenge, also posting on social media for a couple different reasons. But I think there's definitely this hey, I'm part of this thing, and you see somebody else's story, it's like, yeah, I'm part of this thing too, hey, how's it going? It's definitely this acknowledgement, and you see it. I think week 3, week 4, people come into class and they're tired. You can always tell who's doing the challenge. People are tired, and they're like, yeah, I'm here, I'm still doing it.
They're 10 grams of carbs inside. But it's good, it is a very powerful tool to share an experience with somebody, whatever it is.
100%. Yeah.
So you went through this challenge, you did this kind of great experience. It was very, powerful and changing for you. Where do you go from here? You finished the challenge. How are you now approaching the next 3 weeks? Are you thinking, I'm just going to pull it back a little bit, but I'm going to try and stay on track? Or you're are you eating takeaway every night is what I'm trying to
No, I pulled back the first week. I still kept counting macros. I think Super Bowl Sunday was the first day where, I remember everything I ate and I wrote it down still, but I think the next day I didn't count because I just needed a day where I just you just no plan, no nothing, just live life right now. Take this day, and then I did that, and then I was like, okay, and then slowly I came, I think 4 times that week, but I took it easy. I didn't, pick up, I don't think there was a lot of barbell program that day, but even if I think it was only Saturday. I only kept it very light. I just did it for moving so that my body wouldn't just, but counting macros has definitely just, that I've been consistent, and I want to stay consistent on that. The next 3 weeks, I want to stick to it. I'm doing a lot of stuff that I was doing in the challenge. I'm not posting, but I'm still doing daily walks. I'm not journaling because I don't know. Yeah.
You'll get back to it.
We'll get back to that.
How about you, Claire?
I'm trying to stick to it. I didn't definitely the week after the challenge is I'm going to eat so much sugar because I love sugar. But it's I was actually still tracking to kind of keep track and see where I was. I've still been doing the workouts. I've gone down just a little bit, partially because I just hurt my foot the last week of the challenge from running. So I've taken those down a little bit, but I'm still trying to stick to the gym because during the challenge I started just scheduling all I'd sign up for all my classes a week in advance. And then I wanted to keep doing that because it helps me stay consistent with the gym. And when I was thinking, it's I kind of took the train classes out just because it's some of it I can't do because of my foot, but the rest of them I'm well, I don't want to take these classes out because I like going to those classes. So I've still stuck with them. I'm yeah, I'm gonna keep them on my schedule and just plan them the week in advance. So I've definitely still been working out. Like the macros I've still been tracking. I'm definitely not eating as well. Like I said, it's like been like more carb heavy, like more sugar, but I really have noticed like, oh, I've like been eating more calories and have been feeling worse and like feeling hungrier.
Yeah.
Like, and even like last week I did a workout and I was like, oh my God, I feel so bad. I have no energy.
Yeah.
Like I can't lift anything. I feel super weak. And it was like, oh yeah, because I've just had like a bunch of sugar.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, and that was how I felt all the time before. And I thought that was just how I felt. Like I didn't realize it was because of how I was eating.
Yeah.
And now, so it's like, okay, I'm like trying to even out a little bit, that it's like maybe not as strict as before, but like still better than what I was doing before. Cause it's like, I feel a lot differently. Like if I eat more protein and less sugar, it's like, yeah, I feel a lot better. So it's like, now I'm trying to kind of find that balance. And
I think it's a really important lesson to understand how food makes us feel.
Yeah.
Like you were just saying, like,
dumb.
you know, the weight and that kind of stuff is one part of it, but how you feel emotionally and how you feel in terms of energy is such an important realization to have. And sugar can be so disruptive to energy, to sleep. You know, you get those peaks and troughs. You might get a quick buzz, but then you just fall off the cliff.
Yeah.
You know,
like,
same thing with too much caffeine. It can like prep you up for a little bit, and then you just, you know, fall off the cliff.
But yeah, I didn't even, before it's like, if I hadn't done the challenge and changed how I was eating, I wouldn't have realized that I was feeling that way because of what I was eating. I thought that was just normal. And it's like, oh no, that was what I was doing. Well, I can change that.
This is the crazy thing about, you know, society in general. A lot of people who never, ever exercise and never, ever eat well are constantly feeling bad, but they don't know that they are feeling bad because it never felt good.
Yeah, you like don't know there's a different option.
You don't know there's a different option. So they ask them the question, what if I got to go to the doctors? I need drugs. I need something. It's like, unfortunately, if you just exercise and ate better, like you would feel 1,000 times better. But it's that like habit that people get into. It's, you know, I think often we take for granted, and especially, you know, in the gym community, and I think LA to a degree in general, people maybe are a little bit healthier in some places than other cities, but there are a lot of people who only ever eat takeaway or only ever eat fast food or only ever eat junk food. There's pretty much no nutrition in there at all. And can you imagine, like, on a daily basis, if you're only eating food without any nutritional value in it, how bad your body must feel? I mean, it just must
feel terrible.
Yeah, no, totally. And I think that's
a big part of society. That's not like a few people I'm talking about. It's like that's the majority of people.
Absolutely.
And that's why we have an obesity crisis.
And that's also great. Like that great thing of the challenge is that like it is giving you the opportunity to like try something different. Because ultimately, like I see it a lot with some of my clients. So I'm happy to do nutrition for anyone I do personal training for as complimentary. It doesn't have to be like an extra cost. But people often tell me like, I just want to get my workout like in first, and then maybe in 6 months, I'll see about the nutrition. Right. It's like, why? Like the great thing during the challenge, we throw a lot of things at our athletes and we ask a lot of them. I mean, if you look at that checklist that Clara's talking about, it's like a recovery session, a workout, a journaling, logging your food, going for a walk, posting on social media. Like it is a lot that we throw, and it's a lot. And it's only 5 weeks. You don't have a lot of time to like master all those skills. But ultimately, I think, and I see it with a lot of people, it's like that like paralysis of like, oh, I'm not ready. Like, I'm not sure. Like, what if I make a mistake and stuff? It's like, no. All right, here's all the things that you need to do. Just do it. You don't have time to think about it. Just do it. And once people start doing it, it's like, oh my God, who would have thought? Like, if I do recover, if I change a little bit the way I eat, and I don't have to be an expert, it doesn't have to be perfect, and I don't have to like do everything perfectly. I just have to do it with intention. And once we start doing this with intention, just a little bit, just taking a step, then the results follow. And I think that's beautiful.
Yeah. And there really is nothing better than feeling great. I mean, you look better naked, right? You told me you did. Yeah. which is great in itself. But like when you wake up and feel great and feel energized, that's a great feeling to have. And there's nothing worse than saying where you felt like shit after having like less sugar. It's like you feel terrible. It's like, oh God, what have I done to myself? But yeah, if we can get ourselves to a state and a consciousness where like you wake up and you feel like energized and fresh, it's like, how am I going to tackle today? Like, it's such a good sensation to have, and we reach that by ticking these kind of boxes that we've been mentioning today. So let's talk about, and we'll do this one by one. And Arthur, I want to bring you in on this as well. If for anyone listening that's thinking about doing a challenge in the future, what advice would you give to them going into it? Clara, we'll start with you.
So my biggest thing, and I know I've talked to Arthur about this, was literally I just did what he told me to do. Like I told him at the beginning, I'm like, I will do whatever you tell me to do. So the biggest thing was like, I trust Arthur. Like I think Arthur's probably the coach that I've like worked out with the most since I started coming here, just because of like class times and everything. So it's like, I know him. I know he's really good at what he does. I know he knows what he's talking about. I totally get that like analysis paralysis where I'm like, oh, is this like the best thing? And then I like kind of don't start. And it was like, okay, I get stuck on that. But with that, it was just like, tell me what to do and I will do it. And I will just stick to it, because then I don't have to think about it. I don't have to question like, well, is this the right choice? It's like, no, he knows what he's doing. Like he has shown results with other people, with himself. Like he's doing all of this. I just have to follow it. Like it really made it honestly kind of easy for me, because it was like, here's the thing I have to do. And I'm just going to follow it. And like it made a huge difference to just be able to do that. Because I wasn't like second guessing myself and going, oh, did I like do this right? Is this the best thing? It's like, no, I'm going to follow this. And it's like, it worked fine for me. Like he was always like, oh, do we need to change anything? It's like, at first it was a little tricky for some of the stuff. And it's like, no, I'm just going to keep working on it and like just do what you told me to do. Like it made a huge difference.
I think in a world where there is so much anxiety and so many questions we ask and so much confusion, it's so nice to just be told what to do.
Yeah, it was great. It totally was. It was like, this is so much less stressful.
Yeah.
Because it's like, then it's like, I'll probably succeed. And also if it didn't work out, I could just be like, well, it was Arthur's fault. I did what you told me to do.
Yeah. Well, this is the problem, is like, there is so much information out there, and you can just run your head in circles with like stuff you read on the internet or in books or stuff people tell you or stuff that says in magazines. It's like, oh my God, I don't know where to start. Like, this is just so confusing. Whereas like you said, when you have someone, it's like, all I want you to do is this, 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 and this. And you're like, yep, okay.
Yeah.
And then it's just simple.
Yeah, you just check the boxes and keep going.
I would agree, like being willing, but also open to being a student and being like knowing that you don't know everything, and just be willing to learn. And just also being having intent, and having the intent, whether it's like, I think I was pretty honest. I was like, I want to look good naked. I want to get laid. Like, I was pretty honest, but also deep down, I mean, I had like mental stuff that I wanted to, really kind of overcome. So intent is important. And there's another one, be truthful with yourself. Like, because if you're going to be, if you can be truthful, like don't overreach and say, I'm going to do this, all of this. And because then you're just kind of setting yourself up for failure, because it's not, just be realistic with what you can stick to after the challenge. Yeah. Because that's where it really, I feel like that's what really is, it's about, like, changing.
That's one of the hardest things as a coach and as a friend even is sometimes being honest with people when they're not being honest with you. Sometimes people will say things to you and it's like, this doesn't make any sense. These numbers don't add up. Like, this shouldn't be happening. And it's like, often it's because the person's not being real. They're not telling you the truth. There's things they're doing that they're not telling you about. So it can be a hard conversation sometimes to have with someone, to be like, I need you to be honest. Like, this isn't true. What you're telling me, these numbers don't add up. This can't be real. And then after a while, you'll break it down. Well, I did do this and I did do that. It's like, okay, now we're getting somewhere. Whereas if you go into it like, I'm just going to be 100% honest. Like, even if I fuck up, even if I drink a bottle of scotch a night, whatever it is, like, as long as I'm honest about it, like, I'm on the right path, the right journey. The worst thing is like, you go into something, you lie about things, you blame other people. It's not your fault. It's someone else's fault. It's your coach's fault. It's the gym's fault. It's somebody, like, whatever it is. It's like, you can't behave that way if you want to achieve success in this way. So you have to go into it with, like you said, you have to be open, you have to be truthful, you have to be honest, and you get so much further, so much quicker if you go into it that way.
Yeah, because I also wanted to continue coming here, and I couldn't like tell Arthur, I'm hitting my numbers, but having like 3 bags of chips, and he was, he'd be like, what the fuck's going on? Like, why are you just getting here?
Yeah.
So and I respect him so much. Like, we had the like. Just so much respect, so I wanted to just have him be proud, and
yeah, that's cool. When you make your coach proud, that's a good feeling too. Arthur, what advice would you give?
Well, I think that everything that has been said is perfect. I think that, like, you know, faith and accountability and open-mindedness, willingness, all the stuff is true. It's definitely, like, you know, consistency, I would say, is a big one. Most importantly, like, you really gotta want it. Like, you gotta want it. And sometimes wanting it also means, like, you gotta believe you can. You know, I know a lot of people who want to change, who like the idea of changing, the concept of it.
Yeah.
That, like, maybe one day, yes, I can have the body that, like, I want, or I can achieve what I want to achieve, or I can eat how I want to eat. Well, why not today? Like, you've got 5 weeks to put yourself first. You do this. If you're going to do this, do it really, or don't do it at all, you know? And sometimes you can only show up in the capacity that you can. You know, I had, like, somebody booking a job halfway through the challenge and had to pull back a little bit, but she could still focus on certain things, and she did, and she still got results, you know? Yeah. So really show up, believe you can change, and trust your coach. Once again.
Did you guys have good support networks during this thing, like family, friends? Did you have people around you who were helping you?
Yeah, my friends and roommate were great. Like, I told my roommate, hey, I'm doing this. We can't really have our friends over for dinner for the next 5 weeks. And she was great about it. She was very supportive. Yeah, I didn't see my friends for like 5 weeks. So
Right.
I think that was pretty, you know, and they understood, and the results, you know, definitely helped.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It's like people were like supportive and stuff. They're like, oh, like, I've seen what you've been like posting everything. They're like, that's really cool. Like, how's that going? Or like, that looks super hard, but that's great. And like, even like one of like the second or third week of the challenge, I was out of town and I was with my family and like was traveling. I'd be like, okay, cool guys. Like, I got to take a break from like hanging out because I got to work out for like an hour and a half. And they'd be like, oh, that's really cool. Like, that's like, you're really committed.
Yeah.
Like, that's cool that you're
great.
doing that. And so then they're like, oh, and then they saw that I like won. They're like, oh, that's awesome. So like, that's really cool. And it was just nice, like, even with like the social media posts and like, so even friends, because I like wasn't necessarily talking about it a ton at work, but they're like, oh, I see you're doing that, and like, that's awesome. And it's like, oh yeah, cool, thanks. Like, that's helpful.
Yeah, it's
really
such
nice.
it's such a huge boost when you have a supportive, you know, network around you and people that are saying encouraging things. And there are too many people in this world who are too negative about everything. It's like it's nice to have like positive voices.
Yeah, it's very nice.
So you guys are going to come to Lodge, right? It's part of your victory
Yes. Fantastic.
victory prize. When do you want to come? And when do you want to come, and what do you want to get out of it?
A workout.
I just want to hang out in the woods for a while.
Yeah,
You
some
know?
meditation, some
Disconnect.
self-reflecting,
Some
turn
hot
off
tub.
my phone.
Oh yeah, there we go. Perfect.
Yeah,
Hang out in the
it's
woods.
beautiful. You guys will love it. Yeah, we'll work out. We like to do like a couple of hikes and show you guys the kind of scenery. Then we'll work out, and then we'll hot tub, and we'll make some good food, and we'll
Fantastic.
get some fires going, and maybe do some s'mores. As long as it goes into the macros,
Yeah, it's fine.
it'll be all right. But guys, congratulations again on your victory
you.
and
Thanks.
on a successful challenge, and thank you for being such good competitors and such good members of the gym, and for really being you know, a good kind of like guiding light for people. Because like I said, it's easy sometimes to think what's okay for this person because they love fitness, or they've been doing fitness forever, and they're an athlete, and they're this and they're that. Whereas sometimes I often find with the challenge, the most successful people are people who didn't grow up as athletes. They weren't necessarily sporty people in the past. You know, they came into it with, you know, an open mind, with a hard work ethic, willing to learn, willing to listen, and just follow a coach's guide. And it's great to see that on its own can be so successful. You know, just you don't have to be an athlete to get results.
Yeah.
You just have to be a willing participant and follow the guides and the lessons. So
Yeah.
Exactly.
it's awesome to see.
I
from both of
definitely
you.
want to thank like you and Emily and all the coaches for coming up with such a well thought out challenge, and you know, just all the people we have on staff are just amazing, and
Oh, thank
makes
you.
it very
Yeah,
easy
for
to
sure.
come here and show up. And
Is there anybody
know.
you don't like?
Would you like to name them right now?
No, thank you for saying that. And yeah, this challenge is something that's kind of evolved over the years, and we've tried to improve it as we've gone, and tried to make it, you know, more user friendly and more successful, and more not just easier to follow, but more thorough. Like with improvements in the journals, improvements in the coaching and the coaches. I think we had the best team of coaches on this challenge. And I think the way it was laid out was clearer. So we'll keep doing what we can to improve on it. And the next challenge is going to be in May, right, Arthur?
Yeah.
And that'll be like more of a summer challenge going into the summer. So get that summer body ready.
Might give someone else a chance.
So we can get excited about that. So guys, if you're listening and you do want to do the next challenge, just watch out on the Pharos Instagram page at Pharos Echo Park. We'll be posting information about it on there. But it will be another 5-week challenge. There will be a prep week as well. So technically it'll be 6 weeks, but 5-week challenge with a prep week. It'll be another fantastic opportunity to make a difference, to put some good habits in place and to make some necessary changes. Thanks again, you guys. Great job, Arthur. Great job from you, my friend.
Thank you.
Great to see you thriving in this capacity as well as everything else you do. And thanks for tuning in, guys. We are 1316 Glendale Blvd in Echo Park. We are open, obviously, full time now. The pandemic is, well, I can't say over, but we're coming out of it. So everything is up and running. We have all our memberships are operational now. Multiple classes a day, multiple programs, open gym, great coaches, great people, great community. Come see us anytime. We'd love to have you here. Until next time, take care.